Hey guys, so I saw X-Men Apocalypse the other night. I was actually really surprised by it. I know a lot of people have been saying online that it's not very good, and even the critics aren't so hot on it, and I have to disagree. I actually liked it. I liked it a lot. It's definitely not perfect, I'll explain why, but it's the closest to comic book X-Men than we've ever seen on film. Before we get started though, just like my Civil War review, we're going to talk about the characters, we're going to talk about the plot, after credit scene compared to the comics, so spoilers. One more time. Spoilers. The last X-Men movie we got was Days of Future Past, which depicted my favorite X-Men story of all time. X-Men Apocalypse takes place 10 years later in 1983, and revolves around my favorite X-Men villain of all time, Apocalypse. He is absolutely one of the most powerful enemies the X-Men have ever faced, and Magneto usually has to join together with the X-Men just to help take him down. After all, what is Magneto gonna rule if Apocalypse destroys the world? Apocalypse's motivations are very simple. Just like in the comics, he thinks the world is weak. He wants to cleanse it by destroying it and ruling over the strongest survivors.
Together, we will cleanse the earth.
Everything they've built will fall! And from the ashes of their world, we'll build a better one!
Since he's the first and oldest mutant, he's got the powers to back it up. Born in ancient Egypt, he was worshipped as a god, and he's been transferring his mind into new bodies and absorbing a collection of power since then, pretty much becoming immortal and able to do just about anything. There really is no limit on this guy's powers. Ever since then, he's been going around manipulating different civilizations and posing as different gods. He even makes a comment in the movie that he's been known by many names. And this movie does a fantastic job of displaying his powers and forcing all of the X-Men to work together and take him down. Like I said at the beginning of this video, I enjoyed this movie. I'm going to let you know what I liked and what the studio could have done way better, because there are some things that could have been done way better than they were. And I love how Magneto was handled. He's the perfect example of a comic book villain done right on screen. He's one of the most complex characters in all of comic books. He's never been truly evil or truly good. He's been shaped by tragedies that have happened to him, and he wants to do what he believes is the best for all mutant kind. He's even been part of the X-Men plenty of times before. In X-Men Apocalypse, he's been trying to live a normal life with a family and a job, until tragedy strikes and he's back to his evil ways, and you really do feel and understand why he does what he does, and why Apocalypse so easily brainwashes him. Which brings me to a couple things the movie needed to have done better. The Four Horsemen. Apocalypse always has 4 mutants that he brainwashes and amplifies their powers to serve him. In the comics, there's been a ton of different characters that have become the Four Horsemen. Characters including the Hulk, Wolverine, Gambit. In the movie version, the lineup is Magneto, Storm, Angel, and Psylocke. Storm as one of the Horsemen was awesome. She even has her 80s mohawk look. It looks badass on screen. She's a thief in Cairo just like she's supposed to be. And she's even got her African accent. Storm is a character that grew up in Africa. She is supposed to have an accent, so very well done. This new actress portraying Storm totally sold me. After aligning himself with Apocalypse, Magneto becomes more powerful than ever after he discovers he can pretty much move the Earth itself. He's just as great as he usually is. It's never a dull moment when you have Magneto on screen. This is where they messed up. Angel and Psylocke were complete throwaway characters, which is a shame. Once Angel became Archangel, he became one of my favorite comic book characters, and Psylocke is my favorite female X-Men character. They both barely had any lines in the movie and were treated like basic henchmen. They had zero personality or any life in them at all. As not good as X-Men 3 was, they did a decent job on Angel. But most people don't even realize Psylocke was in that movie too. For some reason, the movies just can't get Psylocke right. Going back to Angel, in the comics, when Apocalypse turned Angel into Archangel, the process to give him the metal wings was excruciating and painful.
Rest, be my slaves. Increase the power. I want to hear the cries of the future.
But after he breaks out of Apocalypse's control, he wants complete revenge of Apocalypse for his mental torture that he went through. He was in complete turmoil.
Return to me, O sweet death, my horseman, and all shall be forgiven.
Forgiven? You ruined my life!
Ruined? No! I have created a slave of you. Yes, but a slave of courage and fire.
I am no slave!
None of this is in the movie, and won't be, because after having him in a couple of fight scenes, Angel gets killed off, or so they made it seem. It was a complete waste of a character. And Psylocke, she's just there, which is a shame because that's about all there is to say about her. She's there to be eye candy and have fight scenes. That's it. Once Apocalypse is beaten, she literally just walks away. She doesn't join the X-Men, she doesn't say a word, she just leaves. Another waste. Quicksilver. Now, one of the things the movie got right, he is easily one of the best characters in this movie, which is great because in Age of Ultron, he was one of those throwaway characters that I love so much. Finally, they confirmed he's Magneto's son, which, quick note here, was completely spoiled in the trailer.
Magneto? He's my father.
What?
Him and my mom, they did.
No, I know.
I understand it was hinted at in Days of Future Past.
They told me you control metal. No, my mom once knew a guy who could do that.
I get it, but it would have been a great treat for fans that weren't expecting that confirmation. And speaking of spoilers, Weapon X was also spoiled in the trailer too. When is Hollywood gonna learn that fans are gonna go see the movie? You don't need to spoil what would normally be awesome surprises. Anyways, getting back to Quicksilver. The highlight of his appearance in the movie is when he saves all the kids in the mansion during an explosion. It's kind of like a scene from Days of Future Past, amped up times 10. He's running around the mansion saving all the students in creative ways during a huge explosion while listening to Sweet Dreams Are Made of These by Eurythmics. It was hilarious and it was entertaining as hell. As a comic book fan, I appreciate it when filmmakers show clear understanding of a character's powers. While Age of Ultron made him just kinda run fast, X-Men shows his powers from his point of view. To him, the world is always moving in slow motion. His mind is always moving just as fast as he can, and he has to constantly slow himself down. When he's running, he's doing millions of calculations in his head, judging every possible outcome around him. In X Factor number 87, he describes it perfectly. He compares it to when you're waiting at an ATM, and the person in front of you doesn't know how to use it as you wait impatiently behind them. He says to him, the world and everyone around him constantly feels like people who don't know how to use that ATM. You get a whole new layer of appreciation for this scene if you understand how his powers actually work.
Gonna welcome me back? Mess with me, you mess with my father.
Havoc and Cyclops in the movie. Havoc wasn't in the movie all that much. Cyclops did a great job. What I really would like to say is that finally they established that they are in fact brothers, as they should be. One thing in the movie that I think is kind of silly. Now, this doesn't affect how enjoyable the movie was. It's just kind of silly that they felt the need to make Storm's hair white because Apocalypse unleashed her powers. They also explain how Professor X lost his hair too. If you go back to X-Men 1, it shows how Rogue got the white streak in her hair also. Do we really need these explanations? They could have just made Storm's hair white from the beginning. I don't think anyone in that theater would have angrily demanded an explanation about how Storm got her white hair. Now, something I have a really strong complaint about in this movie. Some of the CG in the movie looked awful. It just looked unfinished. Now, mind you, a lot of it looked great. When Psylocke is jumping around on the jet, it looked clearly like a CG person, especially after she jumped off and was jumping back and forth on the buildings. It just looked completely fake. At the end of the movie, when they're showing the aftermath of all the destruction caused by Apocalypse, they show some blue construction cranes or something. They stick out so much. I dare say they look like something out of a PS2 game, while the rest of the environment just looks real. With a budget and name as big as X-Men, you would think that these things would have been noticed during editing. Clearly, they ran out of time. I do like the final battle with Apocalypse when Jean Grey unleashed her Phoenix powers, something that was spoiled by a TV spot the day after the movie was released. That scene was outstanding. Theater I was in an uproar. All the fans were bouncing up and down in their chairs with smile on their faces. It was epic. And comic book readers can pull this panel directly from Ultimate X-Men number 93, when the ultimate version of Jean Grey unleashes the Phoenix on Apocalypse. It's just taken directly from this comic book. I hate how they're treating Mystique. They're treating her almost like the leader of the X-Men now. She's allied with the X-Men in the comics before, but at the end of the day, she's always in it for herself. She is a villain.
You never loved me. You only cared about my powers.
I just don't care for this interpretation. I know they're trying to humanize her and give her multiple dimensions, but all the X-Men and all the mutants in this movie, they look up to her like some sort of hero. It's clear that the only reason they've done this is because Jennifer Lawrence has become such a huge actress in The Hunger Games and all kinds of other movies. It was absolutely not done for story purposes. And the final costumes look great, especially Cyclops. He's got his little strap on his costume from the 90s comics that serves no purpose, but hey, it's there. Mystique's look is reminiscent of her white dress look that she's always had in the comics too. Unfortunately, they didn't use these until the very last shot in the movie. They blow away the black shells they're wearing in the final battle, which look like they're ripped from Dragon Ball Z, by the way. Color it black, and then look at X-Men Apocalypse. Overall, the movie was awesome. Go check it out. But that leaves us with one question. Where is the franchise going? I've got a couple ideas. We know they're making a movie based on the New Mutants, which were a spin-off of the X-Men taught and cared for by Magneto during one of his good guy phases. By the end of the movie, Magneto helps Xavier rebuild the X-Mansion, and they're buddies again, so this could easily be a lead-in into the New Mutants movie. The after-credit scene shows a man taking a vial of Wolverine's blood and putting it in a briefcase that says Essex Corp on it. This is a clear reference to Nathaniel Essex, longtime Marvel X-Men villain, Mr. Sinister, who's obsessed with genetic experimentation.
You shall not interfere with my greatest experiment. None of you are necessary.
And we know Hugh Jackman is just about done playing Wolverine. Could this lead to Sinister creating X-23 from his blood? She is a clone of Wolverine after all. And this could be how we still have a Wolverine in the X-Men universe after Hugh Jackman leaves. She did replace him in the comics as Wolverine, so it would make total sense. I'm excited to see where this all goes. The building blocks are all there for the future of the X-Men movies. And I know I've said a lot of negative things in this review. I don't want to come off like the movie's bad. The movie was great. I loved it. But there were some glaring issues that I did want to bring up because it's not a perfect movie. But for comic book fans, there's a ton to enjoy. But you don't even have to be a comic book fan. If you just like the X-Men movies, it's a great time too. So go check it out.
Mother always wanted me to be a surgeon.
Foolish insects!
Thanks for watching, everybody. I hope you enjoyed that review. Make sure you check out some of my other videos. You can click some right here. And don't forget to subscribe, or I will find you and click subscribe for you. This is Fabian from GamerThumbTV. Till next time, guys.